here's Brody Brazil.
It's obviously no surprise that so many YouTubers and content creators are going to be putting out Super Bowl videos this week, including me. And by the way, thank you for actually clicking on this and being here. But the purpose of what I intend to do here in the course of this video is actually spell out the most interesting compilation of facts and figures, not only about this game, but also about Super Bowl history. And it doesn't matter if you're a 49ers fan or a Chiefs fan or just a football fan, or you're not even a sports person at all. I'm trying to appeal to everybody here with a little glance of the most interesting parts of football's title game. And on that note, let's begin with this. Why exactly are Roman numerals used for Super Bowls? Well, here's the answer. It comes straight from the NFL. The Roman numerals were adopted to clarify any confusion that may occur because the NFL championship game, the Super Bowl, is played in the year following a chronologically recorded season. And it makes sense. New Year's Day happens and all of a sudden we're in a brand new year, but it doesn't represent most of the entire regular season that happened in the preceding year. And look, this conversation happens a lot in the NBA, which starts in one year, ends in a different year. Same thing with the National Hockey League, starts in one year, ends in the next year. This is how football simplifies it, and it kind of cleans it up and eliminates any, confusion about what Super Bowl, what championship it was for a respective football season. Okay, it's the 8th rematch in Super Bowl history. When you think about it, 57 Super Bowls, 8 of them have been rematches between two specific teams. And this is a rematch of only a couple years ago when Kansas City beat the 49ers 31-20 down in Miami in 2020. But it's also interesting because I think there's only a little bit more than a dozen total players from those two teams who are still on their respective teams. For Kansas City, it's going to be their 4th Super Bowl appearance in 5 years. Obviously, they've figured out a way to find a way to getting back to this championship game. And for the 49ers, it's going to be their 8th total Super Bowl. Their history is unique. They were 5 for 5 in their first 5 Super Bowl appearances. They won them all. They've dropped their 2 most recent ones, and they're still trying for that elusive 6th Super Bowl title, which would put them at the forefront of NFL teams. No team has more than 6 Super Bowl titles. Obviously, the 49ers would like to get on that top-tier ground of getting their 6th overall franchise ring. Has there ever been a lopsided Super Bowl game? Well, there's never been a shutout, which is amazing. Again, 57 games and every team has scored at least a single point every single time. You would think in 57 regular football games, and one of them might be a shutout, but not in this case. The biggest blowout actually involved the 49ers. It was in 1990. They beat the Denver Broncos 55-10. So they won by 45 points. That's the most lopsided final score of a Super Bowl game. How about the most combined points? That also involved the 49ers in their most recent Super Bowl win. That was in 1995 when they beat the Chargers 49-26. So the answer of the highest scoring Super Bowl ever is 75 combined points. And yes, the 49ers were involved back in 1995. Christian McCaffrey, his acquisition, is that the best 49ers trade ever made? Well, that's debatable on who the player was, what their impact was, how many years they played with the 49ers. I'm just saying, since they've acquired him, he's been so tremendous and so huge in regular seasons, but also in playoffs. In 2023, this past regular season, he led the NFL in total yards and touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey did 1,459 rushing yards, 564 receiving yards, and 21 touchdowns scored. Here in these playoffs, in just 2 games, 188 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Run CMC has been so critical to the 49ers, and everybody talks about Brock Purdy as being Mr. Irrelevant and what a unique story he is at quarterback. I'm here to tell you that their running back is most certainly one of the backbones of their team, and in a lot of circles could be the MVP of this 49ers team. Okay, how about the rush of people coming to Las Vegas? We know it's always a big tourist town. There's always a lot of people coming in, but 300 to 400,000 tourists during this game week alone, which is an interesting dynamic because the Las Vegas Strip has about 150,000 hotel rooms. So maybe 2 people a room. That gets you up to about 300,000. But it's fair and it's clear to understand that not everybody's staying on the Strip. There's downtown Las Vegas, there's surrounding suburbs of Las Vegas, so not everybody will be in a hotel room on the Strip, but if you think about 150,000 rooms, and some people are there for other reasons beyond the Super Bowl, 300 to 400,000 people total is a lot to take on in a given week for a football game that's only going to seat 65,000 at Allegiant Stadium. So they're there for the fan experience. They're there for some of the other events, but they're going to fill up Las Vegas pretty good. Las Vegas has 4 airports that have a total of 475 parking spaces for jets and other general aviation aircraft. They're all full. They're all spoken for. So unless you have a spot reserved, don't try flying your airplane in. It just goes to show you that, and I think last year in Glendale for the Super Bowl in Arizona, in the Phoenix region, there was something like 1,100 parking spaces for airplanes. So parking for planes at 475 is going to be limited. And I know everybody's saying, well, what about Taylor Swift? What about her airplane? Can she even get from Tokyo to Las Vegas back out to Australia to fit this in with her tour schedule? The answer is yes. Logistically, it is possible. She can cross 9 time zones and the international date line to make the game between 2 concerts in Tokyo and in Australia. Back to Las Vegas, back out to Australia. That's a lot of flying around. All right, Patrick Mahomes certainly making a name for himself. The Chiefs quarterback will be the first player at his position to start 4 different Super Bowls before age 30. What a tremendous achievement. And you think about most players and a lot of quarterbacks don't have their best years until at or after their prime, so to speak. Here's Patrick Mahomes, who's already done it 4 times before 30, could probably do it if the team situation allows 4 times after age 30 as well. So I think it gives you an idea of somebody who's still very much trending up, trending better, and has had the chance to obviously win a Super Bowl before. But getting back to 4 Super Bowls by age 30, that's a pretty tremendous accomplishment. What teams have never made it to the Super Bowl before? Well, the Lions were 1 win away. The 49ers beat them in the NFC Championship game, and that's why Detroit was so much looking forward to the opportunity of being there. That's why they wanted to win. It's been a long time since they won an NFC Championship game. And so them, the Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Houston Texans, the 4 teams in total that have never made the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Cleveland situation's unique. There's a little bit of complication with these 4 teams and how long they've been around and where they come from and all that, but it just goes to show you that 4 franchises have never actually been in this situation of trying to win the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl game. How about the chance to rewrite some history? 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan, he's been a part of 2 Super Bowls, but they were both losses. He was on Atlanta's coaching staff as a coordinator in 2016. He was also obviously San Francisco's head coach in 2019. But it's not just losing the Super Bowl twice, the only 2 times he's been there. It's that both his Atlanta and his San Francisco teams had double-digit leads in those respective games at one point and lost the games. Obviously, the Patriots took 2016, and it was the Kansas City Chiefs who won in 2020, the 2020 Super Bowl. And technically, it was the 2017 Super Bowl. But you understand the point here. Shanahan's teams have been in Super Bowls twice with good scoreboards. And ultimately, he did not able to get his ring and taste victory. So for Kyle Shanahan, I'm sure the preparation, the effort, the chip on the shoulder, they're all going to play a part in his Super Bowl Sunday. This is going to be the most expensive Super Bowl ever for most of the fans. And I think that kind of comes as an obvious. Every single year, inflation, cost, the spectacle goes up, the production goes up. But this is the first time that the Super Bowl is going to be hosted in Nevada by Las Vegas. And the average ticket price, as of recently, and this can fluctuate up or down, $9,800 is the average ticket. That's up 70% from last year. This is also an interesting fact because I want to spell these 2 out before I have the conversation. The average person who's just watching the game from home, at a friend's house, wherever, a bar, a restaurant, the average person spends $86.04 on food and or drinks and or decorations and or apparel. And that comes to us from the National Retail Federation. That's actually believable. You're throwing a Super Bowl party. maybe you can get by on a little bit of a cheaper amount than that. But the point being, it's costly. People spend a lot of money surrounding the Super Bowl that have no direct connection to the game. You could be 3 time zones away and spend almost $100 on a game that you're not even going to. You're just going to enjoy it on somebody else's screen. It's a revenue-generating event for the economy, for a lot of different things. This is so much more than just a football game or a championship game. It's interesting how it has effects on the economy to that degree. Not just the $9,800 per ticket. I mean, some people go to a really good concert and might spend $1,000 or $2, maybe the Taylor Swift concert. But $9,800, the average ticket price to go to the Super Bowl. Let me tell you from attending, was it Super Bowl 37 in San Diego? I was fortunate enough to go. It was the Raiders in Tampa and the Bucs crushed them, but it felt like a corporate event. And I want to share this because I'm not sure how many people have ever been to a Super Bowl. It's fun. It's unique. It's the spectacle. There's some magic in the air before anything even happens. And there's a concert, a full-blown concert at halftime. And it just seems so well put together and so well done. It's a bucket list type thing. And again, I was so much younger back then and I was going for work, but it's still like you have to consider the price tag. And it's probably not just you going. So tickets for 2, by the time everything is paid for, easy $20,000, probably closer to 30 or so when you figure in a hotel room or travel accommodations or food or merchandise or whatever else you want to take part in. It's a pretty expensive proposition to go to this upcoming Super Bowl. All right, how about the most important thing for people on Super Bowl Sunday? Right? This is interesting here. What is most important to you on Super Bowl Sunday? 44% said what? It's got to be the game, right? Like whoever wins the actual game, that's most important. Okay, that's what you'd expect. Well, maybe you might expect it to be higher than 44%, but okay, we'll take it. 19%. There's 2 19% there. What's the next closest, most important thing on Super Bowl Sunday? Oh, the halftime show. Okay, I think I understand this. In this case, it's Usher, by the way. So this is, again, from the National Retail Foundation. 19% say the halftime show is what's most important to them. So what's the 18%? It's the commercials. All right, that's something for everybody to talk about. And hey, tons of millions of dollars are spent putting those commercials together and also buying the airtime. So I'm getting all those 3, maybe not in the proportions I would have expected. What is the 19%, the other 19%? Other? What else is there? Is it the food, the camaraderie? What else is most important? The game, the halftime show, and the commercials, right? We've narrowed it down to that. I don't know what the other is. I'm going to have to say it's food or the party-like atmosphere of wherever you're enjoying the game. Anyway, I thought that one was interesting. How many people are going to watch this game? I can't speak for the entire world, nor do I think that it's really as much of a worldwide event as it's made out to be. Like the World Cup of soccer, football, depending on where you're watching this, that is a global event. Football is very North American. It's not to say that people in Europe or South America or Africa or Asia won't be watching. That's not true. They will be. But I think the Super Bowl and the NFL are very much most platformed in the United States and North America. Usually more than 100 million people tune in. And we'll find out if this year's any different, a couple days after the Super Bowl. But it's crazy to know that the U.S. population, as of February 2024, is 341 million. 1 in every 3 people that you know will be watching the Super Bowl on Sunday. When does 1 of every 3 people in our country do anything at the same time? Right? Like that's kind of a trip to think about. 1 in 10 people doing something, 1 in 20, 1 in 100, that's still a lot of people. But 1 in 3, basically, 3.5, a lot of people are going to be tuning in, as they always do, to the Super Bowl. And again, that's North America. Okay, and you know what? Maybe I should say 100 million across the world, maybe now we're starting to realize that it's not as much as it seems. If it's 100 million across the world and there's 341 million in the United States, then maybe those numbers are a little bit viewed differently, I should say. But that still is interesting. How many people watch the game versus how many people are citizens here in the United States? Let's talk a little Brock Purdy. He really, in a short time, has never let the 49ers down. 2023, his first full season as starting quarterback, 9.6 yards per attempt, 4,280 total yards. He had a 113 passer rating. In his 25 total starts, including postseason games, 21-4 record. The touchdown to interception ratio, 44-15. And I got to say, weren't 5 of those picks in one game against the Baltimore Ravens? Was it 5? Do I remember that correctly? Convenient memory. I've tried to forget. So, I mean, that ratio could be even a lot different, minus one really bad game that Brock Purdy had. He's young. He's getting a real rare shot at this at such an early age, which I know is also to be talked about later on in this video. What's the longest Super Bowl on record? We talked about the scoring and how the 49ers were involved in that on a couple different regards. They were also involved in the longest Super Bowl on record, 254 minutes. That's 4 hours and 14 minutes total. That was the 2013 game, the 49ers against Baltimore. Remember there was that 34-minute delay at the Superdome in New Orleans when the power went out, the lights went out? Watching the broadcast, like, what is this, an effect? No, this is an issue to be sorted out. Can it be fixed? I mean, imagine the panic behind the scenes. We just told you how many people across the world are watching. And the power goes out to the building? Somebody still might be in trouble for what happened more than a decade ago. But that was the longest Super Bowl on record. Look, they typically are longer than normal with the halftime show, all the extra pomp and circumstance, but that was the longest. How about a tailor-made Hall of Famer? See what I did there? Taylor Swift, in case you didn't know. Travis Kelcie, at just 34 years old, just had his 8th NFL season with 900 or more receiving yards. And I know that a lot of people are new to Travis Kelcie, maybe new to football because he's kind of been a magnet in that sort of sense. But this is a player who just surpassed the most catches in NFL playoff history. He's got 156. Oh, yeah. He just passed Jerry Rice in the AFC Championship game against Baltimore. Travis Kelcie, more playoff catches than anybody else, just passing Jerry Rice. So say what you want about all the other stuff and attention and who he's dating and is he really going to propose after? Yeah, come on. This is a football player who's had a lot of playoff success, and he's got that to his name right now. Let's go back and talk a little Patrick Mahomes, and it certainly is interesting for him to get to another Super Bowl. I mentioned before, 4 times before the age of 30, because this was not necessarily the season where you thought he and the Chiefs would actually get there. He tied a career high in turnovers at 17 during this past season of 2023, and his team was one of the worst he's ever been on with Kansas City. They had an 11-6 record, so during his span at quarterback, that was their worst team record. But here they are. And since the regular season ended, 3-0 in the playoffs. 0 turnovers by Patrick Mahomes. And that's the beauty of great players like this. They've been there before. They know how to do it. They know when to turn it on. They know how to be great when the odds might suggest that they haven't been. Which states have hosted Super Bowls? I mentioned this is Nevada's first time. They become the 11th total state to host a Super Bowl. Typically, they're all in these warm weather or now domed locations. They obviously don't want to have weather be a factor in the most important football game of the year. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to do it outdoors in the Northwest or the Northeast or Chicago. It's really difficult. 10 other states have hosted Super Bowls: Georgia, Texas, Michigan, New Jersey, Arizona, Florida, California, Indiana, Minnesota, and Louisiana. So you're seeing mostly domed stadiums outside the southern part of the United States. But it's interesting that only 11 out of 50 total states, technically 48 in the continental United States, only 11 of 48 have ever hosted a Super Bowl, and we are, 57 Super Bowls in as of this Sunday. They keep going back to a lot of the familiar places. Andy Reid has been in charge of one of the most successful regimes of the NFL since 2013. Andy Reid has led Kansas City to double-digit regular season wins in 10 of his 11 seasons. And for Kansas City, 8 straight AFC West titles. Sometimes there's greatness that is recognized, and sometimes there's greatness that goes under the radar, and sometimes there's greatness that just isn't fully appreciated until well after the fact. And I think what Andy Reid is doing is acknowledged right now in this current time and space, but I think when looked back upon, and when you have a final total of titles and championships and Super Bowls that he and Kansas City might have, I think that might tell a pretty respectable picture of what he's been able to do. 10 years in, basically, and that is a lot of success. Well, 11 seasons in, a lot of success, the double-digit wins, and 8 straight AFC West titles. The Lombardi Trophy. This is an interesting one. A lot of people would say it's the biggest trophy you could get. Football's king, right? The most popular sport in North America. The Lombardi Trophy, though, is not the largest sports title trophy. It's the biggest, maybe, to win, but not the largest to tangibly hold. It's 7 pounds, 22 inches. It's made of sterling silver. How does that compare? Well, if you win the World Series in Major League Baseball, that's a 30-pound trophy. It's only 2 inches higher. It's made of the same silver material. In the NBA, if you win the finals, you get the Larry O'Brien Trophy. That's still more than twice as heavy as the Lombardi Trophy. It's 15.5 pounds. And again, only 2 inches taller. It's made of a silver base with a 24-karat gold coating around it. And in hockey, there's the Stanley Cup. 34 pounds and 35¼ inches tall. 34 pounds and more than 35 inches tall. And it's got everybody's name on it. It's got the rings. They engrave it. By the way, there's multiple Stanley Cups because a few of them get dropped and banged up and bruised up and drank out of. And the Lombardi Trophy, I guess has it been spiked before? Has it been tossed from one boat to another nautical vessel? I think it has. It's lived a pretty crazy life too. But the Stanley Cup, made of silver alloy, 34 pounds, by far the heaviest and the largest pro sports title trophy. Maybe not the biggest, but again, that Lombardi Trophy, when it gets raised with one hand, 7 pounds. You and I could do 7 pounds, no problem. We could curl that, no problem. Okay, that's it. Hopefully you had fun with some of the facts there. Hopefully it primed you for Sunday's game. Like I said, whether you're super in-depth with everything or you're right on the surface as a casual fan, I just wanted to spell out everything I thought would be fun and set you up for some insights. And hey, feel free to share these with your friends. Share these facts and this video with your friends who also might be interested. I'd really appreciate that. Also, while you're here, before you go, thumbs up down below. I greatly appreciate you being here on this channel and for this video. And if you're new here, welcome. Congratulations. I'm glad you found me. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.